Okay. I think we're good to go. I meant to start a countdown, but I did not do so. So that's okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. I am your host, Mike, and today we're going to do another episode of the Fantasy Edition, and we're going to cover UFC Vegas 56. I do request if anybody's in the chat to let me know if my mic is working. I'm not 100% positive, but I think it is. So, all right. Today's a big day for the fantasy show. We're officially adding 2 apps, and we might do away with DraftKings or make DraftKings its own show that I'll do for like 25 minutes. I'm not positive yet, but I kind of know where I'm going to end up going in terms of DraftKings. I think we're going to cut it off from the show. And yeah, so I'm also seeing that my Wi-Fi is not great. So let me know if that's an issue as well. So the first app we're going to do is PrizePicks. Then we're going to go over Underdog Fantasy, which shares a lot of things with PrizePicks, and it's a very similar app. And then we're going to do an app that I was just introduced to called Monkey Knife Fight. Had no idea it existed. Apparently, it's one of the biggest fantasy apps out there, and it's been really interesting. I made some money on it my first time last week, and I'm getting the hang of it. I'm not confident yet in myself fully in terms of Monkey Knife Fight, but learning. So hopefully the charts that I put together, they can help you guys and they can help me as well. So anyways, anyone new to the show, what we do here is I have charts up for all the sections of PrizePicks. I'll have them for the other apps as well. And we're just going to go through each fighter, each stat, each thing, and we're going to find some spots. I'll talk about spots that I already have, and I'll talk about spots that I think are good in general. So my Wi-Fi thing is upsetting me. It's been like a recent thing. I've been having issues with my internet. I want to try to switch to my other. I have like 2 networks. I think everybody does, but I don't want to like fuck up the broadcast. Okay, we're going to try it because I can't do this with that service. Hope no one gets disconnected. Okay. And it doesn't say that it's any better or any worse. Okay, whatever. If the Wi-Fi is bad, please someone just let me know. Having some issues with it. And if my mic's not working, obviously, also please let me know. But anyways, so back to going over the apps. PrizePicks, what is it for anybody who doesn't know yet? It's essentially just an app that allows you to bet on fighter props. So say you have a sports book. Kiarik's saying we're echoing. Okay, hold up. We're going to try something. Any better? Kiarik saying I was open on Twitter, and that's why he heard the echo. Is it better now, bud? Is it working all right? But anyways, yeah, so back to what the app is. PrizePicks just allows you to bet on player props, right? Fighter props. You go on any other book like DraftKings, say you like basketball, you can bet on a basketball player getting, let's say, over 12 points, right? But for UFC, you can't go on any sports books and bet, for example, for Gravely to get over 3.5 takedowns. Like there's no book that allows that, at least that I know of. If anyone knows a sports book that allows those kinds of plays, please let me know because that would be very lit. But I personally don't know, so I can't say. But either way, that's what PrizePicks is for. That's what they allow us to do. We'll go down here. It's got 4 sections, this PrizePicks. It's got fight time. It's got significant strikes, fantasy score, which I will go over because it's different scoring criteria than DraftKings, and it does make a difference. It really, really does. And then the last one is takedowns, and then I have my plays down there, and then we'll move on. I'll try to go quick because we got a ton to do today. So let's see what we can do. So for the first category, fight time, I don't like these so much because, like I said when I started, the whole point of PrizePicks is that you can bet props that aren't available on books, and these are available on books. So I don't love it, and I also don't feel like there's good spots often. Sorry, I got to get a drink out for this. So sorry for any box opening noises, but I am going to play one-time prop for once. I'll point it out when we get there, but there is one that I think is worth it because of how fat the line is on books. So let's crack one open. Cheers, gang. We got 3 people in the chat. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. And let's get right into it. So for the first one, we've got Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Michailidis. So they've got the line set at 8.5 minutes. The books have this set at 7.5. And if we look at the fighters, so Fakhretdinov in his last 10 fights, he's covered this 3 of 10 times, so 30%. And Michailidis in his 3 UFC fights, he's covered this 1 of 3 times, 33% of the time. Now you guys will notice some guys like Munoz Jr., Fakhretdinov, they'll have last 10. Meanwhile, guys like Gravely, Michailidis, they won't. That's because if they have more than 3 UFC fights, I just include the UFC stuff. If they don't, I include the regional stuff. I just don't think that the regional stuff is as relevant when it comes to the UFC. So if they've got more than three or more UFC fights, I just use that. Now, so for this one in particular, I feel like it probably goes over. I'm not confident, right? Because you got two guys who are finishing very often, 2 guys who get finished when they lose. Michailidis, like I said, 1 of 3 times in the UFC, he's gone over this only. And that was against a guy who presented no threat in KB Bular. So honestly, I lean under the 8.5 minutes, but I'm not going to sit here and waste time because it's not something I'm going to play. Next, we've got Gravely versus Munoz Jr. PrizePicks has the line set here at 11 minutes, and the books have it at 12.5 minutes. So we look at the numbers. Gravely, he's covered this 4 of 6 times, 67%. And Munoz, though, in his last 10, he's only covered this 1 time. He's mostly finishing guys. When he loses, same thing. Well, actually, no, he only got 1 loss, right? I'm incorrect there. I apologize. Munoz only finishes, does not get finished. His 1 loss was against Nate Manez, and he did not get finished there. So I personally think that this fight does not go the distance. If I had to play it, I would play it on a book at under -1, under 12.5 at -130. That's probably what I would do here. For PrizePicks, I don't see any value here. I do think that it'll probably still go under the 11 minutes, but I don't like that spot. So we're going to move right on ahead. All right. Next up, we've got Saint Denis versus Stolze. For Saint Denis, I mean, the line's set at 10 minutes, so that's 2 rounds. On the books, it's 12.5 minutes, 2.5 rounds. So we look at Saint Denis' numbers. He's covered this 1 of 8 times. Stolze, we look at his side. He's covered this 4 of 10 in his last 10, so 40%. And this one's interesting. I personally think that this fight does go the distance. I don't see either of these guys finishing each other. They're both on probably the lower end in terms of UFC, talent as of now. Both of them, I think, have possibilities of going far. But right now, they're still new. They're still green. And I honestly don't see a finish happening here. So if I was going to play it, I don't hate going over 10 minutes. I do think that's going to hit probably, but it's not for me. Anyone tuning in now, thank you to the 5 viewers we've got going. I was just talking about this earlier. I don't love the fight time props, so I'll be going through these very fast. There's only one that I'm going to play, so that's the one I'll try to spend some more time on. But anyways, here we've got the next one, Osborne versus Adashev. This one's set at 12.5 minutes, so 2.5 rounds, just like it is on the books. For Osborne, you look at it, he's covered this only 1 of 5 times in the UFC, so 20%. Adashev, he's covered this 2 of 3 times in his UFC career. So this one's interesting, right? I personally lean under because I think that Osborne has every opportunity to finish Adashev. I think he can take him down, and I think he can sub him. On the feet, that's a whole nother story, right? Do I think Osborne can finish Adashev on the feet? Maybe. Do I think Adashev can finish Osborne on the feet? Maybe. But I think both of those things are unlikely. I think that if we see a finish, it's going to be Osborne getting a sub. And while I think that if he wanted to do that, he could do it very easily, I'm not sure he's going to do it. He doesn't really show a tendency to shoot much. He did in the Vergara fight. He only got one of, I'm going off the top of my head here. I want to say he shot 5 times and got one. I could be off, but it's not something he does. So look, if he comes out here, wrestles, grapples like he should, and subs Adashev, you're going to hit this under without even trying, in my opinion. Because I don't know that he's going to do that, I'm not going to play this. I do lean under for sure, but I'm not personally going to play it. Next, we've got Jackson versus Argueta. This one's short notice, so had to quickly figure this one out, tape it like yesterday. So the line is set at 10 minutes, 2 rounds. On the books, it's 12.5 minutes, 2.5 rounds. And we look at Jackson's numbers. He's hit this 2 of 4 times in his new UFC run. I'm not counting the numbers from when he was in the UFC and then got cut. That was back in like 2014, 13. And I just don't think it's relevant now. He's on a new run. He's doing great. Looks good. So we're only counting these because they're recent and, in my opinion, far more relevant. So Jackson, in his last 4 UFC fights, he's covered this twice, so 50%. And Argueta, in his 8 fights, he's covered this 6 of 8 times. So the numbers are suggesting that it'll probably go over. What the numbers don't know is that Jackson's much bigger. Argueta's going up a weight class. He's short notice. Jackson's been preparing for a fight. Argueta, maybe he has been as well, but he didn't have a fight lined up, at least that we know of. So I've got to think that Jackson probably submits Argueta. We're also talking about a guy in Argueta who grapples. He's a grappler. He's a wrestler at first. That's his thing. Do you really want to do that against a guy like Jackson? Look what happened when he fought, what's his name? The guy who was beating him literally the entire time until he submitted him. I'm blanking on the name. Mirsad Bektic. Like, look, Mirsad kept taking him down. And at some point, he left his neck out, and boom, the fight was over, and Jackson won. I think similar things can happen here. I think Jackson can impose his own top control and his own ground game here. So, yeah, I mean, I lean the under, but if I was going to play the under, I'd rather just hit the minus 150 and then either chalk it up there or parlay that rather than going under. I mean, I guess, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't like it so much. Jackson 10 minutes, under 2 rounds. I can see it happening. I don't want to play it, though, so we won't waste any more time. Next, we got Selecki versus Da Silva. The line on PrizePicks and on the books is identical. It's 12.5 on both, 2.5 rounds. Selecki, you look at his numbers, he's covered this 3 of 5 times in the UFC, so 60%. And Da Silva's covered this 2 of 3 times, 67%. And he only didn't when he lost to Yakovlev by guillotine in round 2, I want to say. So this is another one where I'm not going to. Okay, the system just told me that I unplugged my mic and to unmute myself. So I hope it's working. Let me know if it's not again. I do appreciate you guys working with me on the technical difficulties. So I personally don't think that there's going to be a finish here. I think that a finish is live the whole time, which is why I don't want to play the over. I just personally don't think it's going to happen. I think both these guys are really tough. I don't think either is going to be able to submit the other. Thank you, Kiara, saying it's all good. I appreciate you. So, yeah, I don't see these guys subbing each other. I think it's possible Da Silva can finish Selecki on the feet, but I think it's unlikely. So I do think it goes over, but both these guys are really talented. Both these guys are really good, and both of them are really dangerous. So I'm not counting out a finish here, so I'm not going to be playing this one. But this next one is our spot, right? So for Menifield Mozarov, they've got it set at 5 minutes, just one round. And on the books, it's 7.5. But it's unplayable, right? Because you're going to want to play the under 7.5. Excuse me. and it's set at minus 215. That's a high number. So that's where PrizePicks is going to come in here, right? Because they're offering it to us at 5 minutes. Yeah, that's not as good, but you parlay it up and it's going to come out better than if you parlay it up that minus 215. I say parlay it up because I forgot to mention this before. If you're new to PrizePicks, they only allow you to play things in pairs of twos or more. I only do the twos, but for example, say I wanted to play Menafield under here and Volkov versus Rosenstruck also under, I'd have to play those together. So just a heads up. But yeah, I do like the under here, the 5 minutes. I do think we probably get a finish in the first round. I wouldn't go crazy on this one, but I'm going to be using it. I think that it's very likely that one of these guys finishes the other. I think that Mozarov isn't very good. I think that Menafield can sub him if he's smart. He can crack him too. I think that Menafield can get cracked as well. And yeah, I mean, Mozarov, I don't know if everybody saw, it just came out like his record was completely botched on Tapology and they just adjusted it. So now he's like 20-11 or something like that, when before he was like 27-7, something like that. I'm botching the numbers, but you get what I mean. But anyways, I do like the Menafield under here. And then for the last one in this section, we've got Volkov versus Rosenstruck. Volkov, it's set at 19 minutes, so almost 4 rounds, just under. And then on the books, they've got it set at 3.5 rounds, so 17.5 minutes. So we're going to look at both of these guys. We're going to look at their fights that were 5 rounders, right? Because how is it relevant otherwise? It's not. So for Volkov, he's been in 6 5-round fights, and he's gone over the 19-minute mark 2 times out of those 6. One of those was Cyril Gahn, who, is very well known for just dancing around the octagon, keeping distance, and picking people apart. That would suggest why that fight went so long. So that's just what I think. And then Rosenstruck, we look at him. He's had 3 25-minute fights, and he's gone over the 19-minute mark 2 of 3 of those times. One of them was when he got that last-minute finish over Overeem. Awesome. Check it out if you haven't. And the other one was also his loss to Cyril Gahn. Like I said, Gahn is good at picking these guys apart from a distance, which often leads to a decision. So for this one, I think we're going to go to decision more than likely. If we ran this like 10 times, I personally think we'd go to decision like maybe 7. If a finish happens, I know a lot of people are saying it's going to be on the Rosenstruck side. I lean the Volkov finish. I think we're all underrating Volkov now because of what happened with Aspinall. But Rosenstruck is literally nothing like Aspinall, first of all. And second of all, Aspinall would do the exact same thing to Rosenstruck if he wanted to. So, and then before that, Volkov looked terrible against Tybura, sure. But Tybura at least also presented a takedown threat for Volkov to think about. He shot, I was looking at this earlier, Tybura shot like, I think 17 or something times. Like, Volkov had to worry about those shots. Rosenstruck isn't going to do that. So I think Volkov's live for a KO too, but that's a whole nother story. All right, so now we're going to move on to sections I play more often. Significant strikes is a super straightforward one. It really just comes down to, do you think a fighter A will get more or less than this amount of strikes, right? So in terms of angles of what I look at when I'm doing this, because these are significant strikes and not just strikes, I'm looking at grapplers, right? Because grappling, when you're on the ground, it's very difficult to get significant strikes. It can happen. They count them, but it happens less likely. So Jorge Sandoval, thank you for tuning in, brother. He's saying that Volkov had COVID during the training camp for Tybura. And I wouldn't be surprised. If you look at that fight, he looked kind of like slow motion, tired the whole time. I was watching and I was just like, what is wrong with him? It was weird, and that makes sense about the COVID. I personally didn't know that, but it does make sense. But back to the significant strikes for PrizePicks, I do think that wrestlers are a good angle to look at because of the fact that UFC isn't counting significant strikes on the ground often, unless it's very clear that it's significant. And guys who, fight a little fancy, they like their spinning stuff, those kinds of things. I'll hit those spots too. I love Dagestanis. I'll hit their unders all day. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So starting off, we got Blanchfield. They've got her over set at 55.5 significant strikes. She's only had 2 UFC fights, and she's gone over this one time in those 2. That was against Sarah Alpar. And in her last fight against Maverick, we saw she didn't cover this. So I tend to think that she's going to go over this because I think that Aldrich is going to be difficult to finish. I think that Aldrich is going to be difficult to hold down. But it's also like I personally would have said all those things about Maverick too. Like I had Blanchfield in that fight, but I would have never imagined that she would have done what she did to Maverick. If she can do that, like it's entirely possible that she just takes down Aldrich, either finishes her somehow early on the ground or lays on her and beats on her, doesn't get the significant strikes counted, and we end up under. I do lean over, but just a few too many unknowns for me personally. So that's not one that I'm looking to play. But this next one is one that I would be looking to play. So here we got Fakhretdinov. They've got him set at 34.5, and we don't have any numbers to work off for his historical stats because only the UFC keeps track of that stuff. But we can still watch tape, right? And we can still see that this guy prefers to grapple. And in terms of what his striking is left to, it's mostly just overhand rights, right? It's the classic Dagestani way. Overhand rights. I wanted to say jab, but really not really. It's mostly just overhand rights and then shooting in for the takedown. That's what it comes down to. Because of that, I think it's going to be a low volume affair from him. I do. Kiarix is saying, is anyone going to look good when your opponent shoots 15 takedowns? I mean, if you're blocking all of them, then you can look like some kind of animal, right? Like, what's it called? Peter Yan in the first fight with Sterling. Sterling shot like, 17 times? Peter looked great. Let's not talk about that second meeting, though. Still a sore subject. But anyways, I do like Fakhretdinov under 34.5 strikes. I haven't played it yet, but that I will be playing it personally. I think he's low output on the feet. I think that he's dependent on the takedowns. And I also think that it's not out of the realm of possibilities for Michailidis to knock him out. And if that happens, I don't think he's going to cover that 34.5 either. So I do think he wins, but I don't think he's going to cover those strikes. So I'm going to be playing that under. Molina, 74.5. He's had 3 UFC fights, and he's covered this 2 of 3 times. And look, the only time he didn't cover was when he got a second round finish. And if you look at it, 47 strikes. He got the finish early in the second round. You've got to think that he's going to, if he goes all 3 rounds, you got to think that he's going to cover this more times than not. So Jorge over here saying Molina opened up at 59.5 significant strikes, but it got bumped up pretty quick. Yeah, I mean, they bumped them up, but that's a very big jump. People must have been hammering that. And anybody who did is an intelligent fellow. I'll tell you that much. Because I think that Zalgas is going to not be put away. I think that he's going to be there the entire time. I think that Molina can get a KO, but I just don't think he will. And I think this is just going to be violence. I think it's going to be a brawl. I think that Zalgas is going to be going for the takedowns, and that is the only reason that I'm not playing this. I still might, but right now, personally, I don't want to play it because he's fighting a grappler, you know? If Zalgas comes into this and he's like, all right, Molina is better than me on the feet, but he's got, like, what is it? I think it's less than a 40% takedown defense, something like that. Just take him down, take him down, take him down. And if Molina's getting taken down and controlled or just defending takedowns the whole time, 74.5 strikes is going to be hard to reach. Silva in his Contender Series fight, Molina's, that's that 76W that we're looking at. He was getting taken down. He was defending takedowns too there. That 189, he was getting taken down by Arichi Lang too, but getting back up. Yeah, this is a fact. Zalgas control time isn't very good, and Molina scrambles well. That's for sure. But my point isn't that he's going to get controlled the whole time, but that even if he's just getting taken down and defending takedowns, I think it might be hard to hit that 74.5. I do think he does it. I might get there myself, but that's my hesitancy there. It's because he is fighting a grappler. He is fighting somebody who is a good grappler. Zalgas hasn't shown good control time in his UFC fights, but you got to look at who he's been fighting. He's been fighting some pretty good competition other than Rivera, and he submitted Rivera. he was getting pieced up. That's why I think Molina wins this fight. But look, he fought Manel Kopp. I don't even think he shot a single time there. He didn't. Amir Albazi. Albazi is extremely underrated, absolute dark horse. And Paiva, and he did shoot on Paiva. He didn't get a lot of control time there, but he did shoot on him. He got 2 takedowns. Got almost no control time, though. I'm looking at it now. But Paiva's good, too. But anyways, I won't go on this for too long. I do think that it's more than likely Molina covers. I just don't know if I'm going to get there myself. Next, we got Tony Gravely at 45.5. He's covered this 3 of 6 times, so 50% of the time. And look, personally, I think that he's going to go under here. I think that him and Munoz Jr. are just going to be grappling the entire time. We're talking about 2 grapplers, and I know sometimes we say like, oh yeah, like 2 grapplers are going to end up striking. I don't think that's going to be it here. I don't. I think Gravely is going to keep shooting no matter what. I think Munoz Jr. is going to have a super active guard. I think he's going to shoot too. I expect tons of grappling. If we're on the feet, 45.5, that's not a hard number. But Gravely doesn't cover it all the time. You know, you look at his last fight, which I would say is maybe a similar matchup when he fought Simon Oliveira. And except Oliveira doesn't have the grappling upside that Munoz Jr. has, but 46 strikes there, and he was grappling. I think he probably covers, but I don't want to play it because of the grappling upside from both of these guys. I think we are probably going to spend most of the time grappling. And if that happens, this number is going to be difficult, right? It's going to be a hard number to cover. So I'm going to personally just pass here. For the next one, Saint Denis. I hope I'm saying it right. Saint Denis, I think that's the right way. But they've got him set at 40.5 strikes. He's only fought once in the UFC, and he did cover this. He was getting the daylights beaten out of him for 3 rounds, 2 rounds mostly. And he still covered. For this one, I'm not going to play it again because Saint Denis, I think that's how you say Saint Denis. He's a grappler too. And I think he's going to be shooting the entire time as well. I think he's going to be looking for the grappling here. And because of that, I think that he might not cover it either. If he can't get Stolze down, they have a striking affair. It's going to be a whole nother story. But if he can get him down, which I think he will get him down, I think the 40.5 could be difficult. I'm not going to touch it because it's a pretty small number for a guy who's already done this once. I think that the grappling upside for him might prevent that number from hitting as well. Next, we got Ode Osborne. They've got him set at 54.5 strikes. He's only covered this 1 of 5 times, but that's because he's either always finishing his opponents or getting finished himself, right? So we look at who he's fighting. He's fighting, we were talking about this earlier, Zaruk Adashev, evasive guy, tough guy. I think this hits unless Osborne gets that sub. If Osborne smart, grapples, subs him, I don't think this number hits. That's why I'm not playing it, because I'm hoping for that outcome. I bet Osborne, I bet his sub prop. I think more than likely he doesn't get the submission. I think that this probably goes to decision, and if it does, I think this number is going to be easy money. Because I'm not sure, and I am rooting for that sub and that finish, I'm not going to be playing this, but I don't hate it either. So the next one, Jackson, the number for him is set at 27.5. He's covered this 2 of 4 times since his return, and I think it's going to be under. I do think it'll be under. He covered it in his last 2, but then you look at the ones before that. You can't look at Topuria. That's pretty much irrelevant here. But you look at Bektic, right? Which I think is going to be similar to this, because I think that Argueta is going to be looking for that takedown the whole time too. They're going to be grappling. I think there's going to be a few striking exchanges. And I also think that a finish is live. So because of those reasons, I'm personally going to play the Jackson under. I don't love how low the number is. I normally would like to go over numbers like these, but I think it should hit the under there. Next, we got Selecki. They've got him set at 34.5. This is covered 2 of 5 times, so 40%. And yeah, I think this goes over, and I'll tell you why. I think it goes over for the same reason that it went over in the Gordon fight, and that's because De Silva's not going to give Selecki the fight he wants. If Selecki got the fight he wants, where he's on the ground, he's got control, he's taking the back, he's doing his thing. He'll never touch that number because he doesn't need it. He just doesn't. That's why we see a 19, a 13, a 13 on his previous numbers, because if he's grappling, he doesn't need that amount of strikes. The issue is I think that De Silva is going to make grappling a very difficult thing for Selecki. Because of that, I think they're going to have tons of striking exchanges. And if they are over 3 rounds, 34.5 is a joke of a number to cover. So I do think that goes over. And I wasn't going to play it, but I am. I am going to play it. Cool. All right. This one's going to be quick because I'll be completely honest. I haven't taped Herrick versus Carolina. It came out like a few days ago. I had done all my stuff last week because I wanted to get the show out of the way last week to see if maybe we can get some more views, which we did. We grew big time this past week. It was awesome. But anyways, I haven't taped Herrick, Carolina. I'd be very surprised if anyone in here really cared all that much. If you do, I mean, the numbers suggest that she's going to go under. She's covered that 67.5 only 2 times out of 9. So if you're dying to play Herrick for some reason, there you go. I guess go under. But I didn't tape it, so I can't give you guys any breakdown there. Next, you got Menefield. They've set him at 25.5, which is very interesting. So he's covered this 4 of 9 times, and when didn't he? When he got a flash KO, or when he lost himself, right? Against that 19 is against Oven St. Preux. So look, it's hard, right? This one's hard because we all expect the first round finish. It could still happen in a first round finish, but more than likely probably won't. I would just steer clear. I really would just steer clear because most things suggest the under, but then it's such a low number, 25.5. It's not a high number. So it's too risky for me. I wouldn't play it. This next one is gold, absolute gold. I missed it when I first went through this. I'm gonna be adding plays after the show. This is another one of those like fire the intern moments. You think this is bad? Just wait till we get to monkey knife fights for her numbers. I mean, they got to kill their interns. It's a joke, but this is crazy. Look, she just had a fight, right? And on the Contender Series against a woman who's tiny, tough, sure, but tiny and really not that great. She got blown away in the striking, and she was losing the fight. Like, she was losing the fight. She won with, I believe it was a guillotine choke. She got 12 strikes in that fight. Like, her striking is not good. She's fighting somebody who, like, if she beats Poliana Botelho, it's going to be by sub, right? In my opinion, I don't think she's going to outstrike her and win a decision. So I think this number is cash money, 35.5. I think it's cash money. I don't think it's going to go over that. I'm honestly really surprised. I guess that what they're thinking is if Botelho doesn't give up the takedowns or whatever, or if this doesn't go to the ground, they're going to be forced to strike. But I'm just not seeing it. Silva was forced to strike also in her last fight, and what did she do? She threw 12 strikes and got taken down and controlled, and then got a guillotine and won and got a contract somehow. But Kiarix, it's not my fault they're coming up with nuts numbers out here. All right, but yeah, I'm gonna be playing that, but I'll show you guys monkey knife fights later. It's even crazier. So their intern, my God. All right, so Trezano, 57.5 strikes. That's what they set him at. And I was surprised at this. He's only covered this 1 of 5 times. It was his last fight against Hakeem Dawodu. And I do think he covers this here. I think we're about to witness a war between Trezano and Almeida, right? Almeida. I think we're about to witness a war. I think they're going to go to town. I think Trezano is very similar to Almeida's last opponent, Zeluber, on the Contender Series. I think that Trezano is better and more polished, but I think it's a very similar matchup, which is why I think there's going to be a ton of striking. I think that this is going to be a 15-minute affair. I think that if someone does get a finish, it's going to be Almeida, but I do lean on the Trezano side. I think that Mike probably wins this fight, and I do think he's going to be forced to strike a lot. And even, like, it's not like he's shooting, right? Like, he should have shot in the Hakeem Dawodu fight. He shot like once, got one takedown, but too little, too late. He should shoot. Should probably shoot here too, but I don't think he will. I think we're going to see a fight on the feet, and I think 57.5 is probably going to get covered. Jorge saying, agreed, I like this prop on Underdog also at 55.5. We will be covering Underdog as well. Are you talking about Trezano? Because I don't. Oh yeah, he is talking about Trezano. Yeah, we'll be talking about that soon. I like that 55 even better. I did make a chart for Underdog this week as well. I'm still going to figure out the format for all of this. This is a work in progress. So many numbers and so many charts, but whatever. So the next one, Evloev, 65.5 strikes is what it's set at. He's covered this 3 of 5 times in his UFC career, so 60%. And you've got to think he goes over here, right? Why do I think so? I think so because I think that Ige is going to be a dog. I think that Ige is his toughest test to date. I think that Ige is going to bring it to Evloev. I think that he's going to be difficult to take down. I think that Evloev is going to be forced to strike. You look at the fights where he's striking a lot, Nick Lentz, right? It's when he's not having success with his takedowns or when he's not really shooting them. That's 71. That's Mike Grundy. You know, same thing. Jorge saying he took Evloev under at 73.5. Wow, did they move the line that much too? Or is that on a different app? Because 65.5, I kind of like that. I guess once we go into the 70s, that's a little tougher, but I like the over for 65.5. I do personally think this one covers. And then my boy Volkov, 71.5. I'll bold this one up because I think this hits. I played it on Monkey Knife Fight too. We'll talk about that. So Volkov, they've got him set at 71.5. He's covered this half of the time in his last 10, so 50%. And look, if you look at the numbers, if he's not getting an early finish or getting finished himself early by Mr. Tom Aspinall over here, he's doing really well. He's doing a good, he's scoring well. So I think that the way this is going to play out is I think that Jairzinho is going to be just doing his thing where he kind of just stands there and waits for his counters. I think that Volkov's going to be walking him down and just hitting him nonstop. And I do, like I said before, I don't think we get a finish. So I do think that 71.5 is going to happen. With the size advantage, I don't think people understand how big of a difference this is going to be. Like Volkov's probably going to be at least a foot bigger than Biggie. Like Jairzinho Rosenstruck, he's admitted himself. He said, I forget what interview, but he said, I don't know why they put me as 6'3". I told them I'm 6 feet tall. I don't even think he's 6 feet tall, but 6'3", forget about it. Not even close. Volkov is going to tower over this man, and that's why I think it's going to be very not difficult for him to land strikes. So I do like 71.5 for Volkov. I feel like it only doesn't hit if we get a finish. And an early one at that. A late one, we could still cover that. But all right, now we're going to go to probably the most interesting section we've got, the fantasy score section. So this one's cool because they grade things differently than DraftKings. And I'll go through it, but the main difference is, whereas DraftKings will score top control and score well. So a grappler who blanket wrestlers, they're going to do well on DraftKings, right? That same person, they're not going to do well on PrizePicks because PrizePicks they don't count that. They don't score that. You're only getting scored for those actual takedowns. Now, if you're a volume wrestler, like maybe Merab Devashvili, and you're getting 10 takedowns, that's 50 points. I mean, 60 points. That's a lot of points. But if you're somebody like Islam Makhachev and you're just holding them down, you're not going to be scoring until you finish them, obviously. But with the actual top control, you're not going to be scoring anything. So the criteria real quick, I mean, the scores, the way it works is 0.6 points for every strike. It's 6 points for a takedown, 5 points for a sub attempt, 3 points for a takedown defense, 12 points for a knockdown, 100 points for a first round finish, 75 points for a second round finish, 50 points for a third round finish. And then if there's a round 4 and 5, it's I think it's 35 for round 4, 25 for round 5, and 20 points for a decision win. So I guess my main angle here is if I'm betting, so PrizePicks, they only set lines for favorites really. So it's pretty much a given. If I'm betting the dog, I'm gonna want to play their under on the fantasy score, because to cover the score, they gotta win. It's gonna be extremely difficult for them to cover the score if they lose. It's possible. It's happened. Guys like Colby Covington, they can do it, but I don't think we're gonna see that on this card. I don't personally think so. So let's run through it, right? So they got Blanchfield set at 86.5, right? She's had 2 fights, so she's covered this one of those 2 times. In her last one, she got very close against Maverick. But like I said, blanket top control doesn't score here. Takedowns do. Tons of strikes will get you there. But top control, it's not going to score well. So that's why she didn't cover it last time, although she did get close. I think that it's more than likely that she covers. I think that she's going to have a dominant performance over JJ. I think that she's live for a late finish against JJ. I don't know if I want to play it. I feel like JJ is also being overlooked a little bit. She's better than people are making her out to be. And I just think she can make it a closer fight and make it so that 86.5 is hard to hit. Maverick got murked. Maverick got bopped over 3 rounds, and she kept Blanchfield from covering. So .5. I do believe. Oh my goodness, I do believe that I've already hit the under here. Almost positive I did. So they've got him set at 105.5. I don't have any historical data because he's new to the UFC. But in order to get that 105.5, he's going to need a first or second round finish. And I'm not convinced that he finishes Michailidis. First of all, we haven't really seen Michailidis' takedown defense, especially not recently. And second of all, I don't think that Fakhretdinov is some kind of world beater. I think that he can get the top control. He can get that blanket top control. But I don't think he's going to get a finish. And because of that, I don't think he covers 105.5. So I will personally be playing the under on that one. I already did play it. Next, we got Molina, 87.5. He's covered this 2 of 3 times in his UFC career, 67%. And this is another one where I'm going to lean no. I'm going to lean under, just because I think Zalgas is going to make it close and difficult, kind of like Silva did. If you see that 65.6 W that Molina's got, the first one, I think it's going to be more similar to that. So while I do think he picks up a W, I think it'll go under. I'm just not playing it because I think he's also a KO. He does have KO upside, in which case he would cover. So that's why I'm just steering clear. Gravely, 80.5. He's covered this 4 of 6 times. If he won the fight, he covered. So I think he wins the fight. So I've got to think that he's probably going to cover as well. You know, this is definitely oh, Jorge Sandoval. I thought I brought this up, but yeah. So takedown defense points. There are 3 points for a takedown defense, and it's super relevant. It's super relevant because honestly, that's smart. I didn't even think of that. So I'm going to be talking about it when we get to Volkov. It's very relevant. But he's not wrong here. This is also something to maybe think about. If Molina can get takedown defenses, then he can maybe get this. So the thing is, first off, we're not it's not for sure that Zalgas is going to be volume shooting here. You look at the Manuel Kopp fight, right? Before he got knocked out, we went 4 minutes. He didn't shoot once, you know? So if he's smart, he should be shooting and wrestling here, but we don't really know what kind of game plan he's going to come in with. And second of all, Molina has pretty trash takedown defense. He's sitting at 37%. So like, it's not like we can really count on him to just keep shoving the takedowns away, you know, and then like be like, yeah, that's how he's going to cover the score. I do think it's something to consider, and it's definitely a great point, but I'm not sure that it's going to be enough to push him over the edge. But moving on, Let's head on over to Saint-Denis. I think I'm finally saying it right. 87.5 is what they set him at. He obviously didn't hit it. He got the daylight beaten out of him, but it's pretty impressive. 64.2. He still scored decent. That's from some takedown defense points too. But hey, can't complain. If he wins, he's going to cover this. I bet on Stolze, so I'm not going to be playing it. I don't want to take the under because I feel like my bet on Stolze is enough for me. But if you think that Saint-Denis wins, I think he'll probably cover this. I don't think so. Jorge over here saying that Zumagulov against Paiva went 2-11. That means Paiva scored 27 points on scored 27 27 points just from takedown defense. So yeah, I mean something like that will push Molina over the edge. I do believe so. But going back to this, I do think that Saint-Denis could cover this in a win. I think he loses, so I'm not going to play it. But yeah, so next, Ode Osborne, he's set at 88.5. He's covered this 2 of 5 times in his UFC career. And I don't think he covers this. I think that in order to cover it, well, again, this is another unknown, right? I want him to get a sub. I sprinkled the sub. I hope he gets the sub because it would also make my bet hit faster because I bet him money line too. But if he doesn't, I think that we're not going to hit this. If he does, I think we will. But if he doesn't, I don't think we will. And because of that, I'm not going to play this one either. The numbers suggest it won't hit. I don't think it'll hit either unless he gets that submission finish or somehow gets a KO too. It's not impossible. Just unlikely. All right. So next we've got I am blanking right now. Dame. Wow. I was like sitting here thinking, who is Jackson? Who's Jackson? My mind, man. I'm so tired. And I got another show at 10 with Eric Betts Fights. Make sure to tune into his channel. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Be talking about some plus money bets, so that'll be cool. But yeah, anyways, back to this. Damon Jackson, they've got him set at 100.5. He's only covered this 1 of 4 times. That was in his last fight. But in his other wins, he got very close, right? He got very close. And I do think he beats Argueta. I think that he beats him by sub. I think he beats him relatively quickly and dominantly. So I do think it goes over. Will I play it? Maybe. We're going to go like this. That'll be our maybe. It's just like, what if he doesn't get it? Like, I feel like when we all think something for sure happens, it just doesn't happen. I'm a big jinx guy, so I don't know. I feel like it really should go over. He really should finish Argueta. I'm not super confident about it. Not as confident as I was about Almeida finishing Porter. There I had a ton of confidence. So moving on. Herrig, same as I said earlier for her. I didn't tape this fight. Just haven't gotten there. I did all my tape study last week, did my video last week. So I haven't covered this, but strictly numbers speaking, she's covered this 4 of 9 times. She lost to Carolina the last time. Just from my memory of both of their fights in recent memory, I do lean Carolina still. So I'm going to tend to lean under here, but I want nothing. I want nothing to do with this fight. So I'm not going to bet that. But if you're dying for a Herrig play here, I guess play the under. All right. Menafield, 100.5. They've set him at 5. He's hit this 5 of 9 times. And again, yeah, this probably covers, right? He can even cover this with a round 2 finish. It doesn't necessarily have to be in round 1. He can do it with round 2. If he gets a takedown, if he gets at least like 30-ish strikes, I don't know. I would have to actually sit down and do the math. But I think that he could cover in round 2 as well. So I think that's a decent spot, the 100.5. Like I said before, Oscar Mazarov, we just don't know too much about him, but he doesn't seem that great. It's not that defensively sound. Submission grappling defense is just absolutely abysmal. And he's got this crazy padded record. And I'm not just saying padded. I mean, he literally lied to Tapology. There was something about him changing his name to get stuff off his record. I mean, that's just madness. They fixed it, and now he's like 20-11 rather than like 27-7 or something, whatever it was. So, yeah, I don't know what happened there, but I do think that Menafield probably covers that 100.5. Silva, the 75.5. Look, I think she loses. I think that Botelho probably beats her, but I already have money on Botelho, and I think that if Silva does win, it's going to be by submission, which means she'll probably cover. So I don't want to play this. Trezano under. I am going to play. I either already did or I am. Yeah, I did not yet, but I am. So Trezano under. They've got him set at 83.5. He's only covered this 1 of 5 times, and I don't think this is going to be a time when he covers it. I think he wins the fight, but I think it's to be super close, competitive, and he's not going to have a lot of opportunities to score a lot. He's not a big takedown guy, so he's not scoring 6 points at a time. He's not a sub threat, so he's not picking up 5, 5, 5. Almeida's not going to be shooting on him nonstop to give him threes. So what is he going to do to rack up points here? Pick up a knockdown? I don't think so. Is he going to finish Almeida maybe in round 3? But I think more than likely he wins, but still stays under that 83.5 mark. And then you're also covered if Almeida ends up winning, because then he'll definitely be under 83.5. So I personally like that spot. Then Evloev, 95.5. He's covered this 2 of 5 times. Look, it looks like Evloev's coming into his own and really becoming that guy we all thought he was going to be. I don't know. I don't know if I want to sit here and start throwing these crazy numbers and be like, yeah, 95.5 for sure. Dude, it's Dan Ige. Dan Ige just fought Josh Emmett and Zombie back to back. And then before that, it was Calvin Kattar and Edson Barbosa. I mean, dude is fighting animals. And all of a sudden, we just think Evloev is just going to, I'm really trying not to curse. It's just going to wipe the floor with this guy. Like, I don't know. I think Evloev wins. I got money on him winning. I think he wins the decision. Can he cover? Yeah. I just think it's going to be too close, and I don't think it's worth playing. And then Volkov, 89.5. He's covered this 5 of 10 times. Look, 5-round fight probably goes over. I rather play his strikes. So, and I did. So I don't think I'll be playing the fantasy score. All right. And up to the last section of prize picks. This has taken quite a bit of time. We're 52 minutes in. If you are watching, thank you very much. After we get through this and we go over my picks, we'll quickly hop onto Underdog Fantasy, run through that because it's almost the same exact thing. Then we'll go to Monkey Knife Fights real quick, and we'll run through that. And as for DraftKings, let's see where the wind blows us. I really do think we're going to end up cutting it from this show because I feel like this is a certain niche of fantasy apps, PrizePicks, Underdog, Monkey Knife Fights, and then DraftKings is just its own thing. So I think I should either cut it off or make it its own show, but we'll see what happens. So takedowns, right? These are some interesting numbers here. We got Blanchfield, 3.5. She's covered this only half of the time. 2 UFC fights. I think this goes over. If you look right under, I have it played already. I think it goes over. Aldrich is tough. I don't think she gets finished. I think Aldrich is going to keep popping back up. And I think Blanchfield's going to keep taking her down. So I do think that this is going to be a similar story to the Maverick fight. And I do expect her to pick up 3.5 takedowns. The other side of that play is Fakhretdinov over 1.5. And I'm playing that and going over. And that's just because, look, while he's a lot of unknowns and I'm not positive he wins, I am pretty sure that he's going to get his takedowns. He's a really good wrestler. That's without a doubt. No padded record is going to change that. He's a very, very good wrestler, and I think that to get 2 takedowns here, you're not asking a lot of him. Then you got Zalga Zumagulov, 2 takedowns. He's covered this 0 times in his 4 fights, and I don't want to play it. Like Jorge Sandoval over here was talking about earlier, against Paiva, he went 2-11. Against Manel Kape, he didn't even shoot. Like, it's possible because Molina's takedown defense isn't great, but I don't really want to. It's not a spot I like. Then Gravely, they have him at 3.5 now. I played him at over 3 takedowns. I'm not sure if I want to play him at over 3.5, but he'll probably get it. He'll probably get 4 takedowns. It's similar to his last one, right? Simon Oliveira. He needed 11 takedowns because he couldn't get the guy out of there. I don't think that he's going to get Munoz out of there. And I think Munoz is going to be scrambling, throwing up arm bars and whatnot from guard. So I think he is going to need takedowns. Is he going to need 4? If we go 3 rounds, he probably will need 4. It's a rough number. I took the 3. I guess you could take the 3.5 as well, but yeah, I guess it's all right. 3.5. So Saint-Denis, 2 takedowns. He did not cover this, but he did get 2 against ZDS, which is very impressive. Yeah, look, he should probably cover this. I just think there's too many unknowns yet to be playing this for myself. We have, and also you look at Stolze. He did good defending against Ramazan Ameev. Let me pull it up. Yeah, so Ameev got 4 of 12 takedowns against Stolze. That's pretty impressive. 61% takedown defense. And I would say that Ameev is probably a better wrestler than Saint-Denis is, right? So can he get the 2? Yeah, but I'm not going to play it. Osborne just won. It's 0.5, so he just needs 1 takedown. I am going to play that. Look, all we need for this to hit is for Osborne or his coaches to be like, takedown. Just get a takedown and sub him. And he doesn't even need to actually sub him. He just needs to make that attempt because he's going to get that 1 takedown and we're going to hit. So I haven't played it yet, but I am going to play it. And then we just have to pray for Osborne to have some fight IQ here. Next up, Damon Jackson, 2 takedowns is what they said him at. He's covered this only 1 of 4 times. And yeah, I don't know if I want to play it here. I don't know how he's going to be when he's not I think that Argueta is going to be the aggressor in terms of wrestling. So I'm not sure I want to be playing Jackson's takedowns. Selecki had 2 takedowns. He's covered this 2 of 5 times. I don't think this is the spot for this either. I think that De Silva is going to be able to keep it up on the feet. I think his takedown defense is somewhere around 70%, maybe higher. So I think Selecki can do it. I just don't want to bet on it. I don't want to play it. Silva, 1.5. She didn't get one in her last one. She just look, I really don't think highly of her. But I don't really think that highly of Botelho either. So I don't know if I want to play it. I might consider this one though. Going under on this one. And then Evloev 3.5. I did play like his last fight, against Dawodu, right? That's who it was. Let me just make sure. Yeah, against Dawodu. Tough guy who wasn't getting held down, so he needed to take 9 takedowns to win the fight. Dan Ige, I think, is even tougher than Dawodu. So I think that he's going to need these takedowns again. He's going to need a lot of them. So I do like the Evloev over. I did already play it. And that's that for the PrizePicks section of this show, guys. We made it through. Thank you to anybody who is still watching or who has tuned in. Here are my final plays right here, and then we'll move right on. So we've got Fakhretdinov over 1.5 takedowns paired up with Blanchfield over 3.5. Then we've got Evloev over 3.5 takedowns paired with Gravely over 3. Then we got Fakhretdinov under 105.5 fantasy score paired with Volkov over 71.5 significant strikes. So that's it for the PrizePicks section. Cheers. Let's do some Underdog Fantasy. All right. So, for anyone who's not aware, Underdog Fantasy is essentially the same exact thing as PrizePicks, except for 2 things. First, it allows you, they offer underdogs too. So, whereas on PrizePicks, the only time you might see an underdog is maybe for takedowns. They only really put up lines for the favorite too, which could be useful, And while it is the same thing as PrizePicks, their lines are different sometimes. So, maybe some opportunities there. But anyways, let's move through this pretty quick because I would like to spend a bit more time on monkey knife fights than I would here. And there's really not that much here. So, Menafield. So the first category, significant strikes, we've got Menafield. They've set him at 25.5, which is the same as they have him on PrizePicks. And like I said before, I'm not going to play it for the same reasons I said before. I'm not going to rehash all of that. Osborne, they've got him set at 59.5. That's 5 strikes higher than PrizePicks. He's covered this 1 of 5 times. And for the same reasons as I noted earlier, I won't be playing this either. I'm not going to rehash it, although I think that if he doesn't get a finish, he goes over. Polyana Botelho. Now, this I like. I do like this a lot. Made this chart right before the show, so I haven't gotten a chance to make any plays on Underdog Fantasy just yet. But I do like Polyana Botelho to get 38.5 strikes over. She's only covered this 2 of 6 times, but look, I think she's just way better than Silva, and I don't think she's very good either. I just don't think Silva's that good. Like, Silva was getting washed by someone who, like, doesn't belong in the UFC, in my opinion. So, and Botelho's striking is much better. I think on the feet, Botelho is much better. I think she's going to get her striking off. I think that 38.5 isn't that high of a number for her here. And I think that she is going to cover it as long as she can keep herself from getting submitted. Then we got Trizano. He's set at 2 strikes lower than PrizePicks. So, like I said before, I think he goes over. And if you want to play his over, this might be a better spot because you're getting 2 strikes less to work with. I do have one thing that I'm not sure about. I'm pretty sure that Underdog Fantasy just has it listed as strikes and not significant strikes. I'm not sure if there's a difference for them. I have to clarify because PrizePicks, they do differentiate. For example, when they offer PFL lines, for PFL, they'll only offer strikes because there are no significant strikes in PFL. They don't count that. They don't have a stat for that. But for the UFC, they only do significant strikes. So I'm not sure exactly how Underdog Fantasy does it. For now, I'm operating under the assumption that it's significant strikes, but I got to look into it a bit more. So yeah, I do think Trizano goes over. I'm playing it on PrizePicks. I'll probably play it here too. Then we got Evloev. Let me bold that. Then we got Evloev. 71.5 is what they've set him at. And yeah, I mean, I said over on PrizePicks because it was 6 strikes lower. This already is getting a little higher. You look at it and you're like, Mike, 6 strikes. You really think that will make a difference? And I do. It's often the very small numbers that make it. So I personally am not going to be playing the over for Evloev here, but I'm not going to play the under either because I'm going to play his over on PrizePicks. And then Volkov, 76.5, 5 strikes higher than PrizePicks. He's covered this 4 of 10 times. And I'm just playing him on PrizePicks. There's no reason to do that here too. And then, all right, so Osborne, now we're up to takedowns. Only got 3 options here. For Osborne, under over, they set it at 1. It was just a half on PrizePicks. You should definitely do the half on PrizePicks. Don't play the 1 here. It doesn't make any sense. He's never hit that. He's never gone over it. Polyana Botelho, she's not on PrizePicks for takedowns either, and they've got her listed at 0.5, and it's not out of the realm of possibility. She's done it 3 of 6 times in her UFC career, 50%. And look, like, Silva got taken down by a tiny, tiny woman. A jacked tiny woman, yeah, but a tiny woman who I don't think is very good. So if Botelho chooses to wrestle, she can do it. She's more of a striker. It's something to consider. I'm going to italicize it. I'm probably going to play that over, but just like once. And then Evloev 3.5 takedowns. I already played it on PrizePicks. You can play it on here too if you're doing this instead, but I'm not going to rehash it. You can just rewatch what I said portion earlier. And then lastly, I made an other section because they offer finishes as well sometimes. From Menafield, they set his finishes at 0.5. Obviously, you can only get 1 finish per fight unless you got like Herb Dean as the ref or maybe Vyacheslav Borshev. If he's referee, then you can get like 3 finishes, right, in 1 fight. But otherwise, I think it's only possible to get 1. Excuse me. So, yeah, I mean, this is such a weird thing, like, to bet that. Can't you just bet Menafield inside the distance then? Yeah, I'm not going to play it. I think he does get a finish, but I'm personally not going to play it. And then, so one other thing that Underdog Fantasy offers that PrizePicks does not is the rivals thing. It's kind of like Kiarik saying I love how. Oh yeah, it's literally he's so right. It's literally not Vyacheslav Borishev. Isn't that Slava's name? Slava Claus. What was his name? Who's the referee who almost killed Saint Denis? Watch how that Google search actually brings something up. Yeah, it does. Vyacheslav Kiselev is the name. Vyacheslav Kiselev. I apologize to Vyacheslav Borishev, a fantastic fighter. That mess of a referee was Vyacheslav Kiselev. But anyways, so Underdog Fantasy also offers rival spots. It's pretty much like, so here, the first one I picked, right? It gave me Volkov and Rosenstruck, and it asks who's going to land more strikes. And it gives Rosenstruck that fluff of plus 18.5. It's kind of like totals if you bet like spreads and shit for. Oh, I'm really trying not to curse. If you're betting spreads for like basketball and whatnot, I guess it's similar to that, right? So I took Volkov over Rosenstruck's significant strikes. I think that even with plus 18.5, I think Volkov's still going to cover and get more strikes. So definitely give me that with that size advantage, higher output. I think this hits. And then this one, I mean, talk about firing an intern out of a freaking cannon through the window, right? Botelho over Silva. They gave Silva plus 4.5. You've got to be kidding me. I'm not going to pronounce the poor woman's name because I'm going to butcher it and she doesn't deserve it. But Silva's Dana White Contender Series opponent outstruck Silva by 15 strikes before getting finished with the guillotine or whatever it was. And now you're telling me that Botelho is only going to get plus 4.5 strikes on her? Even if Botelho gets subbed here, there's no way she doesn't like it. I don't use the word, but I think this is like, this really, 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 really should hit. It really should. I'm going to be playing this a ton. I don't understand it. I expect it to be changed relatively quickly. So I am going to play it. Sometimes these apps, they make mistakes, man, right? Like I remember PrizePicks, the craziest mistake they've ever made, in my opinion, was somebody put Jared Cannonier to get 2 takedowns against Derek Brunson. They definitely just mixed up the two. And I mean, that thing got taken down in like a day, but anybody who played that was lit, absolutely lit. Because like Cannonier's not going to get 2 takedowns against Brunson. Who came up with that? So sometimes they make mistakes, and that's when we got to pounce. And I think this is a mistake that we can pounce on. So I do like this. All right. So we're through the Underdog Fantasy part and up to monkey knife fights. So this chart is absolute madness. It's such a weird app, and I'm very new to it still. So this is all going to be pretty experimental. I'm not sure that this is going to be how the show will look on from now on. If we do monkey knife fights here, this is a test. So let's see what happens. Quick drink for the chaos. All right, let's do it. So monkey knife fights is a weird thing where maybe it would help to just pull up the website. That's going to be mad work. Okay, I should have done that earlier. But anyways, essentially what monkey knife fights does is it's similar to PrizePicks and Underdog Fantasy where they do these under-overs, but it's like in matchups, right? So, for example, they might do something like they'll pair up Ige and then Botelho, and they'll be like, okay, Ige set at 68.5 strikes. Is he going to get more than, or less than this? And then they'll ask you the same thing for Botelho. They'll be like, okay, 51.5 for her. Is she going to go over or under this? So they essentially make those the same pairings that you got to make in PrizePicks or in Underdog Fantasy. Monkey Knife Fights essentially makes those pairings for you and offers them for you to bet on. You don't have to, but you can if you like the pairing. It makes things interesting, right? Because I don't love the idea of them making those pairings for me. The whole point I love about PrizePicks is I can pick and choose spots and put them together where I feel very confident. Here, they're kind of forcing you, right? But after looking at it for a while, I feel like there's still opportunities, right? So the way we're going to do this is So the first column, obviously fighter name. I don't have to explain that to anybody, I don't think. Then strikes set at. So Monkey Knife Fight only really does two things, two stats. They do strikes and they do fantasy scores. Their fantasy scoring system is identical to PrizePicks. I don't know who came first. I'm pretty sure it was Monkey Knife Fight. So shame on you, PrizePicks, if you guys stole from them, but whatever. Maybe they made a deal. Who knows? But anyways, I doubt you can copyright a scoring criteria. But anyways, so strikes and fantasy score are the two things you can do over unders on. And the way I did it was, instead of going through every single pairing and being like, this is good, this is bad, I feel like that won't work because then I have to keep going back to the stats, jumping back and forth. So rather, I'm going to provide a sheet. This is a sheet. And pretty much if a number is green, I think that it's going to go over. And if a number is red, I'm playing the under. And if the number is not just black, then I'm not touching it. And the way I imagine this will be used is, you guys could look over these. And as you're looking through the app, let's say here. So let's say you open the app. You open up Ode Osborne and Zaruk Adashev, and you're like, all right, let's look at their strikes. Look at the chart. You go to Ode Osborne. 67.5. It's red. I think it goes under. So you go under. Zaruk Adashev, they've got him at 56.5. I didn't write anything for that. So you would probably skip this one if you're following my charts and you're tailing me. But most of this is just for you guys to work with and come up with your own stuff. So I hope it helps. And if there's any way I can change it around that would help more, please let me know. I love the constructive criticism. So we'll run through this quick and I'll see how this works out. So Volkov, they've set him at 75.5. On PrizePicks, it was 71.5. And I'm going over for the same reasons I did there. I do suggest just going back and watching it. I'm going to have timestamps on this baby, so it'll be easy for people to just hop back and look. But long story short, size, output's better. I think he wins the fight over 5 rounds. I think this covers. For his fantasy score, 89.5. It's the same as PrizePicks, and I'm not playing it for those same reasons because I just rather play the strikes. I think he can cover it 89.5 over 5 rounds, but it's difficult, so I'm not going to play it. Then Rosenstruck, 42.5. I went under on his strikes. Same reason I did on PrizePicks. Oh, wait, no, he wasn't on PrizePicks, but same reason I would have. He's a low output guy. That's really what it comes down to. He's low output. He's covered this only 1 of 9 times in the UFC, 11% of the time. And then for his fantasy score, I didn't play it, but I would have also gone under 42.5. He's hit this 1 of 3 times. I probably would go under there too. Next, we've got Evloev. 108.5 is what they said his strikes at, which is just absurd because PrizePicks has him at 65.5 and they have him at 108.5. So that's under all day long, all day. I think I'd be shocked if he covers this. I messed up. He did hit this. Oh, no, I didn't mess up. He hasn't hit this ever. So I don't understand why they think that's a good line. But yeah, under all day here, all day. This is another one of those spots where like hit the intern over the head with the club. All right. So next, Ige, 68.5 strikes. He's covered this 5 of 12 times. And I'm going under because he's fighting a guy who's going to be wrestling him the whole time. It's going to be hard for Ige to get his work done here. It really will. And I do expect Evloev to just grind him and win over 15 minutes. So I'm going to play the under for Ige. I already did. And then his fantasy score. Okay, so this is super important. Thank you, MMA Kansangani. Apologize for butchering that. He is saying that Monkey Knife Fight is total strikes, and that's super important because then that makes things make more sense. Because like Evloev, for example, 108.5, significant strikes, that doesn't make any sense. Now, if you're counting all strikes, that makes a lot more sense, right? He's going to be on the ground. He's going to be letting it rip on the ground. That's a shaky spot. So I'm going to unbold that. And I'm going to suggest to everybody not to play that. But I'm going to hope it hits because I already did. I wish I knew this information beforehand. Yeah, it's good to know, though. Thank you to MMA Kasangani. And we're going to use that going forward as we move through the rest of the slate. So next up, we've got Trezano, 72.5. They have him at 57.5 on PrizePicks. And I thought he goes over on PrizePicks. I think he goes over here, too. At this point, all those numbers I have next to the strikes are irrelevant because those are numbers for significant strikes. So moving forward, I'm going to have to change all this up. You live and you learn. What can we do? But regardless, especially now knowing that regular strikes count too, I do think Trezano covers that 72.5. I think this is going to be a stand-up war. As for his fantasy score, it's the same as it was on PrizePicks. And I do think that it's probably going to go under, just like I did on PrizePicks. I did notice that I skipped Ige's fantasy score. So if you guys notice, for the underdogs, right, I actually calculated only their losses to see how they scored in a loss. And I did that because Monkey Knife Fight, they automatically assume they're going to lose. They set them at these small lines, 21.5. So it doesn't make sense for me to list what their winning numbers were, because if they win, they're going to beat that. Without a doubt, they're going to beat that, right? So I only counted their losses. And Ige is an interesting story here. In every single loss in the UFC that he's had, he's covered that number, 21.5. So that might be a really strong over spot if that's in any pairings that you like. Moving on past Trezano, then Almeida, 63.5 strikes. Yeah, this is probably going to hit. I mean, I would have probably said this will hit as significant strikes. As total strikes, yeah, I definitely think that's going to hit. Like I said, for Trezano, I think we're looking at a stand-up war, right? And same reason why I think Almeida's fantasy score will go over that 32.5. Look, in his one loss in that Contender Series fight, he scored 60.6. It's a lot of points in a loss, so I don't hate that spot. Then we got Botelho, 51.5 strikes is what they set her at. I played this. I like it a lot, especially with it being not significant strikes, but just regular. And for her fantasy score, I'm also playing the over, 34.5. I think she wins the fight. She's never covered this in a loss, but I don't think she loses. So I am playing that. Then Silva. So if you were here for the PrizePicks portion, I was ranting about her strikes that they set it at being too high. And then I was like, just wait till we get to Monkey Knife Fights. Now I understand why they set it so high here. I still don't think it makes a difference. I still think it's absurd and you got to fire that intern. But 67.5 is what I played it at. I went under. Now it's 75.5, so definitely play under. I don't think it's gonna happen. Like, I don't think she doesn't have a good output. She's not a big striker. I just don't think it'll happen. As for her fantasy score, I went under that too. It was 75.5, just like it was on PrizePicks. It's now at 78.6. So it's an even better spot for the under. I guess people are going the other way, and that's why the numbers are changing, but on our end, that's a good thing. So, all right. And then we got Ode Osborne. They got his strike set at 67.5. And yeah, this one's tough, especially with I don't have any stats up for just regular strikes. I have to lean that it'll go under if he gets a finish, and I do hope he gets a finish. So I think he probably goes under, but I don't like this one. Adasha, 56.5. I actually lean that he goes over. In significant strikes, he's crossed this one of 3 times, and I think it's possible he goes over here too, especially with it not being significant. And then in terms of his fantasy score, they've got him set at 27.5. And in his 2 losses, he has not covered that. So I don't know. I feel like this will be similar to the Sumaderji fight. So even if he doesn't get finished, maybe he won't cover that 27.5. It's just if he was just a bit bigger, Adashev, I think he'd have a much easier time. The size disadvantage is difficult for people to get through. Moving on, though. Menefield, 48.5 is what they set him at. I was confused why, but now I understand. And this has only hit 1 of 9 times, and I went over for some reason. And I'm looking at this now, and I either made a mistake and I went under, or yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a mistake. I'm almost positive I went under there. But that said, yeah, I don't think 48.5 is going to hit. Even counting regular strikes, 2 hard hitters. If Menifield is smart, he's just going to take this man down and choke him out. That's all he needs to do. Him and Oda Osborne had the same path of victory, and they just need to do it. Will they? They probably both won't. But regardless, I think that a finish is going to happen on either side. And in that case, both of these guys' numbers for strikes aren't going to hit. So, and then for the fantasy scores, I went over on Alonzo Menifield. It's the same as PrizePicks, that 100. And then for Mozarov, we don't have any data to work with, but I went under for the 24.5 because I do think he gets washed. So then Herrig, like I said before, I didn't tape Jack Diddley's squad on it, but her fantasy scores at 70.5, so I went under on it here. I believe I only did it once, but yeah, I went under on her, and I just don't think highly of either her or Carolina, but I still lean Carolina. I'm not sure why we're all like, Carolina has a terrible like surgery or whatever it was, and all of a sudden we're all making this huge deal. But like Aljamain Sterling literally had to refix his neck, and then he comes in and looks much, much better against Peter Yan. So I don't know. We love our narratives over here in MMA, don't we? Speaking of Carolina, all right, so they got her strikes set at 67.5, and I did go over on those. She's covered that 5 of 12 times, and that was for significant strikes, so now I'm even more confident knowing that it's regular strikes. They did up the line to 69.5, but I still like that. As for her fantasy score, 26.5, she in her 7 losses in the UFC, she's covered this 3 times. I think she wins, so she probably goes over, but not something I want my money really invested in. Selecki, they've got his strike set at 62.5. It was 34.5 on PrizePicks, but that is because they're counting regular strikes here. And on the ground, you can expect him maybe to be landing shots from top. I don't think he's going to be racking up that much top control here. I think De Silva's going to be moving. I think he's going to make it difficult on him. So I think it still goes under. And then for the fantasy score, I think De Silva wins. So of course I think it's going to go under. De Silva's side, 56.5 is what they said his strikes at. I went under thinking it was significant strikes. Kind of hating myself now because I'm not so positive about it anymore. So please don't tell me on that. But it should still be okay. I think there's going to be a lot of grappling exchanges, but I don't like that I made that play. And then his fantasy score, though, 28.5, that one's fairly easy to go over for. I like that a lot. In his last loss, he still scored 70 points. In that one loss that he scored 13, that was against Yakovlev where he got submitted. You might look at that and be like, all right, if Yakovlev can submit him, so can Selecki. And I agree with you, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think De Silva's improving. That was his debut against Yakovlev. This is no longer his debut. So I think that 28.5 for the fantasy score is kind of a free play to go over. Then we got Saint-Denis. They've set him at 62.5 significant regular strikes. PrizePicks had him at 40.5 on significance. And look, I played this under also because I didn't know about the regular strikes, but knowing what I know now, I actually think it'll probably go over. If he gets his takedowns, he's going to be landing non-significant strikes that will be counted. And I think that that's going to contribute towards this total hitting. That said, they did raise it to 70. It was 62.5 when I went under. Now it's 70. At 70, I might still go under, even knowing what I know now. There's just a lot of unknowns there. And then his fantasy score set at 87.5. I would lean under because I'm playing Stolze, but I already just played Stolze money line, and I just rather do that. So that's what I think there. And then Stolze, they've set him at 44.5 strikes when I played his under. Now he's at 57.5. So F me. If you're going to play under, play that. Too many unknowns for me personally. I did play the under, though, because I expected a bunch of grappling from Saint-Denis, and I still do. Now I'm clueless with this whole it not being significant strikes thing. I got to readjust everything coming into next week. So, But hey, it's a brand new app for me, so this is bound to happen. I do really appreciate MMA Kasangani and everybody else who's helped me out and corrected me on things. I really do appreciate it. Please never hesitate to correct me if I'm wrong. I'd rather you do that than you don't. All right, so next we got Gravely. They've got him set at 63.5. He's only covered this one of 6 times, but that's when we were talking about significant strikes. Even then, though, is he really this ground and pound machine? Not really. Not really. How many regular strikes did he get against Simon Oliveira? Let's check it out. He got 66 against Simon Oliveira. It's 63.5. Yeah, you got to think that he'll probably cover this if it's regular strikes. So I do regret my bet. Don't tail me. I think it'll probably go over. And then Munoz Jr., 55.5. That one I'm not so sure about either anymore. I played it under thinking it was significant strikes. It is not. So just don't tell me there. However, for his fantasy score, 28.5, feel free to play that over because in his one loss to Nate Maness, he still scored 46 points. And I don't think this fight will be much different in terms of him having ability to score even in a loss. So I do like that spot. Molina, 83.5 strikes. It was 74.5 on PrizePicks, but that was significant strikes. This is regular, counting everything, just regular strikes. I went under for the same reason I leaned under for PrizePicks. And I'm not sure that regular strikes will make much of a difference here, right? Because Molina's that type of guy where most of his strikes that land on the feet are significant. He's not much of a pitter-patter. So I'm not sure how much that'll make a difference, but I guess it's something to consider. Zalgas, though, 56.5. He's covered this 2 of 4 times, counting significant strikes. So now we're going to count everything. I think he's going to cover this. As for his fantasy score, 28.5. He's covered this 2 of 3 times in his 3 UFC losses, and I think this is going to be another time he covers. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think it's going to be a war. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So I do expect Zalgas to cover that fantasy score as well. Then we got Michailidis. His strikes are set at 41.5, and I did end up going over. To be completely honest, I'm not sure why. I'm not sure. I feel like that might be a mistake, and I went under. I'm not going to go through it and check, but if I did go over, I'm an idiot. I do suggest to go under, even counting regular strikes. He's fighting a grappler who's going to be looking to keep him grounded and who I think will be able to hold him down at many points. And even then, Michailidis isn't some kind of volume machine. I'm not really seeing it, so I would suggest the under there. As for his fantasy score and his 2 losses, he did not reach 21.5, and I think this may be another case of that. So if I did play it, I would go under there, but it's not something that I'm looking at. Fakhretdinov, they set his strikes at 59.5, and I went under. Now it's 66.5, so I'd go under now if anything. And yeah, like I said, like I keep saying, I thought it was significant strikes, but Fakhretdinov's not super active off the ground either. He's not like going in, right? He's more so going that kind of thing. So like, I still think it'll be low enough where we can hit that under. And then his fantasy score, I'm going under for the same reason I did on PrizePicks. I just don't think that he's going to wash Michailidis. I think it'll be a closer fight. Still think he wins, but not enough to get 106. Then Blanchfield, they've got her set at 95.5. She was set at 55.5 on PrizePicks. She's covered this 1 of 2 times against Alper. That was significant strike. She landed 120. Let's see how many she landed against, how many regular strikes she landed against her last opponent, Miranda Maverick. So against Maverick, she landed 96 regular strikes. So she would have just barely covered this. So yeah, this one's going to be close. I ended up going under. It'll be a close one. I wouldn't tail me now, knowing that it's not significant strike stuff. So I'm just going to put that out there. And then as for her fantasy score, I went over here. I think it's a decent spot. I think she's got that grappling upside. I think she's still going to need the volume grapple because I don't think she's going to be able to just hold JJ down the entire time. And I think she's going to still have to throw up tons of strikes in the striking exchanges, enough to get her through that 86.5. And then lastly, to top it all off, Aldrich, they've got her set at 62.5 strikes. And even knowing that this isn't significant strikes, I still like the under. I think that she's going to be held down a lot of the time, and it's as simple as that. And then her fantasy score, I'm playing the under 22.5 as well, even though she's gone over 2 of 3 times in her 3 UFC losses. And that's simply because I think that Blanchfield is really just going to nullify most of Aldrich's game. I really do. So that's that. And then lastly, they have another thing on Monkey Knife Fight called Knockout Kings. You pick 3 guys, and then you select either you want to be betting over just one knockout happens, you want to bet for 2 knockouts to happen, or you want to bet for 3 knockouts to happen. And obviously the payout will differ. I like the one. I played this last time. I'm doing it again. So out of these 3 guys, I need 1 KO. Menefield, Gravely, Ode Osborne. I'll take it. I think that out of those 3, Menefield and Gravely are probably most likely, but let's see what happens, right? So that's it for the show. We're not going to do DraftKings today. I'm going to send you, if you do want a DraftKings show, I will send you over to Pub Sports Radio. Check out the DraftKings show there. Brady, Wheezy, Luke, Monk, they're going to provide you way more in-depth stats than I can on DraftKings. I'll try to still put out videos where I'll go over, general things about lineups. Every mind is different. Every person is going to put forward different ideas. That's why I like to listen to other handicappers too. I like to see what everyone thinks. So maybe it's still worth it for me to do some DraftKings content. I just feel like I'm providing more of something that's missing doing this kind of stuff rather than chasing DraftKings where there's already people doing heavy stats. So we'll see how that goes in the future. But for this particular show, we will not be doing DraftKings. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to be on again in 20 minutes on Eric Betts Fights YouTube channel. We're going to be breaking down some big money bets, so make sure to tune in and check that out. Thank you to everyone who watched, and have a fantastic day to you all.